I stood in the corner of my parents' crowded living room, a glass of warm sparkling cider sweating in my hand. 70 relatives, one modest house, and enough judgment in the air to choke a room. The scent of roasted duck and ginger mingled with designer perfume and self-satisfaction. "Emily, dear, come here," Mom's voice sliced through the chatter like a command. She stood near the grand piano, flanked by Aunt Sarah, Uncle Robert, and half a dozen cousins whose names I'd long forgotten. Her smile gleamed, polished, performative, dangerous. "Tell everyone about your new job." There it was, the moment I'd been dreading since I walked in. "I work at Metropolitan Hospital," I said evenly. Mom laughed, that brittle, rehearsed laugh that always came before a public humiliation. "She's being modest. She just answers phones at the hospital, barely above minimum wage, but we're proud she's finally employed after all that schooling." The word schooling dripped with contempt. Aunt Sarah patted my arm. Her sympathy as fake as her pearls. "At least it's honest work, dear. Not everyone can be successful like your brother." Right on cue, David swaggered over, perfect timing, as always. At 32, he was the family's golden child, real estate mogul, charming, married to a lawyer, and completely unbearable. "Hey, he clapped my shoulder hard enough to bruise. "Still taking calls at the front desk? Someone's got to handle the grunt work." "I don't actually," I began, but Mom was already talking over me. "We tell people she's in healthcare," she stage whispered to Aunt Sarah, loud enough for the room to hear. "It sounds better than receptionist, though after all that money we spent on her education, we really thought she'd amount to more." I'd heard the speech 100 times. At some point, it had just become background noise. Uncle Robert swirled his whiskey. "Remember when she wanted to be a brain surgeon? That was adorable." "Children dream big," Aunt Sarah sighed. "Reality catches up eventually." My cousin Jennifer, freshly promoted to assistant manager at some boutique, gave me a pitying look. "It must be hard, seeing everyone move ahead while you're still figuring things out. But hey, at least you have a job." I smiled faintly and took another sip of cider. The Chin family had built its empire on hard work and expectations. Doctors, lawyers, CEOs, that was the standard. David had delivered. I had not. "How much do receptionists even make?" Marcus, my software engineer cousin, asked curiously. 30 grand, tops, David replied with a laugh. "No benefits, no future, dead-end work." Dad joined in, frowning. "We offered her a front office job at our company, better pay, but she insists on this hospital nonsense." "I like healthcare," I said softly. "Answering phones isn't healthcare, sweetheart," Mom corrected. "That's administrative work." My pager buzzed. I ignored it. Probably another consult. "The saddest part," Mom continued, "is that we paid for all that education? 7 years of school, wasted." 8, I corrected quietly, "and a fellowship." Whatever it was, she waved a hand. "It didn't pay off." "Maybe she just wasn't smart enough for real medicine," Jennifer offered helpfully. "Not everyone has the aptitude." The pager buzzed again, longer, harder this time. "I mean, we love you, David said. "But come on, a desk job at 31? You've got to want more than that." "She's practical," Aunt Sarah said. "Not brilliant, but steady." The pager wouldn't stop. I pulled it out. Code black, presidential trauma, chief of neurosurgery required immediately, cerebral aneurysm rupture. The words froze me. Code black meant a national security emergency. Presidential meant exactly what it sounded like. And I was the only neurosurgeon in the city qualified to operate. "Emily, are you listening?" Mom snapped. "We're talking about your future. I need to make a call." David rolled his eyes. "See? No focus, no ambition, always distracted." I turned away and dialed. "Chin, status." "Chief, Dr. Patel's voice trembled through the line. "POTUS Chief of Staff, ruptured cerebral aneurysm. Secret Service en route. ETA 7 minutes. Prep or 1. CT immediately. Full neuro team standing by. Anesthesia ready." Martinez scrubbed and cleared for presidential protocols. "Yes, Chief." Secret Service is asking for you specifically. Tell them I'm on my way. No one touches him until I arrive. I hung up. The room had gone silent. What's going on? Mom demanded. I have to go. I grabbed my coat, already calculating the fastest route. 15 minutes if traffic cooperated. See? Mom said to Aunt Sarah. They call her in for overtime on Christmas Eve because no one respects her boundaries. Jennifer nodded. You really should stand up for yourself. My phone rang again. Metropolitan Hospital, Executive Director. Dr. Chin. I answered. Thank God. Director Harrison said. We have the Chief of Staff coming in. Secret Service is here. They're asking for you. Activate security lockdown. Full media blackout. Verify my level 5 clearance. I'll be there in 14 minutes. When I hung up, every face in the room was frozen, disbelief, confusion, a dawning horror. Mom opened her mouth. Emily. I met her gaze calmly. I'm the chief of neurosurgery at Metropolitan Hospital. Then I walked out, leaving 70 stunned relatives and one very silent house behind me. Mom's voice cut through the stunned silence. Who were you just talking to? She asked. Slowly now, cautious, uncertain. I really have to go, I said, grabbing my coat. There's an emergency at the hospital. Dad frowned. What kind of emergency? What could a receptionist possibly? My phone rang again. A secure line, one I recognized from the East Wing. I answered immediately. Dr. Chin speaking. Chief Chin. This is Special Agent Morrison with the Secret Service. Came a clipped, authoritative voice. We have a code black with a cabinet-level official. We need confirmation that you're en route and will be performing the procedure. Confirmed, I replied. I'm leaving now. ETA to Metropolitan Hospital is 13 minutes. The patient stays put until I arrive. Full security sweep of or one before I scrub in. Understood, Chief. An escort will meet you at the hospital. Your clearance is verified. Thank you, Agent Morrison. I hung up. The room was dead silent, every face frozen. Even David's confident smirk was gone. Aunt Sarah blinked. Emily, why did he call you Chief? I pulled on my coat. I have to go. Someone's life depends on it. Mom's voice cracked. Wait, what do you actually do at that hospital? For 6 years, I'd let them believe whatever made them comfortable. Receptionist, assistant, administrative support, anything but the truth, because correcting them never changed the way they looked at me. But right now, someone was dying. I didn't have time to teach them who I really was. Exactly what you think, I said simply. I work at the hospital. But, Jennifer's voice trembled. He said Chief. Chief of what? My pager buzzed again. Critical alert. Patient arriving. 2 minutes. Massive cerebral hemorrhage. I really have to go, I said, and walked out. Behind me, I heard David whisper. That was weird, right? Why would the Secret Service call a receptionist? I was already running to my car. The drive took 11 minutes, 12 if you counted the red lights I ignored. Secret Service had cleared the route, and I had presidential-level emergency authorization. 3 calls came in en route. Dr. Martinez, scrubbed and ready. Director Harrison, patient's condition deteriorating. My administrator, confirming equipment and clearance. By the time I pulled into the executive entrance, a black SUV was waiting. A Secret Service agent stepped forward, checked my credentials, and guided me through a restricted corridor to the surgical floor. The patient's critical. Dr. Chin, Agent Morrison said as we walked. You're the only neurosurgeon in the region cleared for this level of operation. I know, I said, already switching into surgical mode. My world narrowed to focus, the hum of prep rooms, the antiseptic air, the ticking countdown in my head. Dr. Martinez met me at the prep area, already gowned and gloved. Chief, patients in CT now, ruptured anterior communicating artery aneurysm, severe subarachnoid bleed, blood pressures crashing. We've got him intubated and sedated, but he's circling. Time since rupture, 37 minutes. That was almost too long. I didn't have to say it. Prep for immediate craniotomy, I ordered. Scrubbing in. Propofol maintenance. Neuro monitoring live. If there's even a flicker of brain activity change, I want to know. Yes, Chief. The scrub nurse helped me into my gown. The room buzzed with movement, urgency, precision. This was where I belonged. CT's up. Dr. Patel called. The scan was brutal. A massive rupture, pressure on critical brain structures. Another hour, and he'd never wake up again. Or one ready, the coordinator said. Let's move. Inside the operating room, everything fell into place, my team in position, monitors glowing, the rhythmic pulse of machines filling the air. Secret Service agents lined the walls, silent and watchful. Ruptured anterior communicating artery, I said. 63-year-old male, heavy hemorrhage. We'll perform a pterional craniotomy and clip the aneurysm. 4 to 5 hours. Let's begin. The nurse placed the scalpel in my hand. The world fell away. No noise, no doubt, only the delicate geometry of the human brain and the thin line between life and death. Hours passed in a blur of concentration. Open, retract, cauterize. Navigate millimeters of tissue that defined existence itself. Then, there it was, the aneurysm, a fragile balloon of death pulsing before me. Clip, I said. The instrument touched my palm. I aligned the titanium jaws, placed them carefully over the aneurysm's neck. One breath, one motion, click. Flow stopped, I said. Check readings. Stable, Chief, no neurological change. Relief washed through me. Good, let's evacuate the hematoma and close. 90 minutes later, it was done. When I stepped out, Director Harrison was waiting with a man in an expensive suit. Dr. Chin, Harrison said. This is Deputy Chief of Staff Richardson. Mr. Richardson, I shook his hand. The patient's stable, I said. We'll monitor for complications, but the procedure was successful. Dr. Chin, he said gravely. The President asked me to thank you personally. We're aware you left a family gathering to perform this surgery. Your record, youngest chief of neurosurgery in the hospital's history. Over 300 successful operations, precedes you. He paused. The nation owes you, Doctor. I exhaled slowly. Just doing my job, sir. But in the back of my mind, I could already imagine the scene at my parents' house, my family sitting in stunned silence, finally realizing the truth they'd spent years refusing to see. I appreciated that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check on my patient. By the time I left the hospital, it was nearly 3 a.m. The chief of staff was stable, strong reflexes, clear responses, signs of full neurological recovery, the kind of outcome that makes every sleepless night worth it. I drove home through quiet streets, the adrenaline fading into bone-deep exhaustion. My phone had been buzzing all night, messages, missed calls, background noise I'd tuned out during surgery. I tossed my keys onto the counter and glanced at the screen. Dad, Mom, David, Aunt Sarah. 43 missed calls, 67 texts. Curiosity won out. I unlocked the phone. Emily, call me immediately. Why is CNN saying Dr. Emily Chin, Chief of Neurosurgery, saved a government official? That can't be you, David. Your face is all over the news. Jennifer. They're calling you one of the top neurosurgeons in the country. Aunt Sarah. Emily, dear, there's been a mistake. They're saying you're a doctor. Dad. Emily, call your mother. Mom. I turned on the TV. There it was, my face on CNN, a photo from last year's American College of Surgeons conference. Dr. Emily Chin, Chief of Neurosurgery at Metropolitan Hospital, successfully performed emergency brain surgery on a senior government official late last night. Dr. Chin, age 31, is one of the youngest neurosurgeons in the nation to lead a department specializing in cerebrovascular procedures. I shut it off. The phone rang again. I picked up. Emily. Mom's voice, trembling, uncertain. The news is saying you're a brain surgeon, that you're the chief of surgery. Neurosurgery, I corrected, and yes, I am. Silence. But you told us you worked at the hospital. I do. You let us think you were a receptionist. No, I said quietly. You told everyone I was a receptionist. I just stopped correcting you. Why would you do that? She asked, bewildered. Because every time I tried to tell you the truth, You changed the subject. 6 years ago, when I was appointed chief of neurosurgery, the youngest in the hospital's history, I called you. I wanted to share the news. She said nothing. You told me it was just a fancy title, that David's real estate deal was more impressive, that I should focus on finding a husband. I heard her sharp breath on the other end. So, I stopped trying. I continued. It was easier to let you believe what you wanted. Emily, we didn't mean. You asked how much receptionists make. I cut in. I make $470,000 a year. Mom, I run a department. I save lives. I publish research. But none of that mattered to you, because it didn't fit the version of me you'd decided on. We're your family, she whispered. We love you. You love the version of me that makes you feel comfortable. I said softly. Not the real one. I just don't understand why you hid it. I didn't hide. You refused to see. I ended the call. By morning, the press had found me. News vans lined the street. Saving a high-profile patient on Christmas Eve had apparently made me a national story. My doorman buzzed. Dr. Chin, there's a group here to see you. The press? No, ma'am. They say they're your family. Of course. Minutes later, they were in my living room. Mom, Dad, David, Jennifer, Aunt Sarah, the whole chorus, eyes darting over the art, the awards, the framed commendations. Emily, Mom began. I held up a hand. Before you say anything, let's be clear. I didn't tell you about my career because you made it obvious you didn't want to hear it. For years, none of you asked what I actually did at the hospital. You just assumed. David exhaled. I'm sorry. The things I said were honest. I interrupted. You thought I was a failure because that's easier than acknowledging my success. Dad shifted awkwardly. We're proud of you now. Are you? I asked quietly. Yesterday, you told relatives I was barely getting by. You said my degree was a waste. Aunt Sarah lowered her head. Emily, dear. You didn't understand because you didn't try, I said. Mom stepped closer. You're right. We should have listened. We should have asked. We should have believed in you. For a long moment, no one spoke. I don't need your pride now, I said. I needed it when you thought I was just a receptionist. I needed your respect then. Dad nodded slowly. We'll do better. I hope so, I said. I have to get back to the hospital. But maybe, someday, we can have a real conversation. The next morning, I was back in scrubs, coffee in hand, reviewing scans when my phone buzzed. Dr. Martinez, Chief. Patients awake. Full neurological recovery. You did it. I smiled. Me, we did it. Team effort. Because that's what mattered, not the headlines, not the apologies. The work, the lives saved, the quiet, steady pursuit of excellence no one sees until it's impossible to ignore. 6 months later, at the annual Chin family reunion, Mom introduced me for the first time as our daughter, Dr. Emily Chin, Chief of Neurosurgery. I spoke about the human brain, its fragility, its brilliance, and about the cost of the work. This time, my family listened. Afterward, my 8-year-old cousin tugged on my sleeve. Aunt Emily, can I be a brain surgeon like you? I smiled. You can be anything you want, and when you do, never let anyone make you feel small, not even family. She nodded solemnly. Across the room, Mom caught my eye and smiled, genuine. This time. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was a start. And sometimes, a start is enough.